guys, how's it going? Everyone has been talking about a knife collection, so thought that one doesn't really qualify. So I thought I'd quickly give you a rundown of my knife collection. I've got a few different sizes here and knives for different tasks. Of course, this is actually more of a scraping knife. Then over here we've got more of a putty style knife for actually applying material. This guy here does a similar job, but it's designed to have a little bit of a cup to it so that you can, or so that it's designed to cup a little so that you can, leave a bit of a mound behind. Little thinner guy, this is actually just a scraper, but I actually have it here because I've got a couple of doors where between the trim and the top of the ceiling, there's not quite enough room. So I've got something small that I can squeeze a little bit of material in there. And then finally, a wider sort of finishing knife. And of course, all of these will work well when used in conjunction with a good hawk. This is not a huge hawk. I probably could justify a slightly larger one, but you know how it goes. You don't want to spend money when you're doing something to try and make money. So we'll be making do with the smaller hawk and with this collection of knives. Hope that's of interest to you. We will talk to you soon. Oh yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon. Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a collection video for you. Now this has been requested a few times over the last couple of weeks by a few different viewers, and I think on Instagram as well. And so anyway, I wanted to make this video, but it gives me an opportunity to actually talk about something else. So to lead me into the whole conversation that I want to have with you before I start sharing my collection and before I share some of the changes that I want to make at the end, let me ask you a couple of questions. First off, what do you consider yourself? Are you a collector? Are you an enthusiast? Are you, maybe you're a YouTuber and that's your primary connection to knives, or you're, you do something else involved in the industry. I'd love to hear that. How many knives do you have? Do you try to keep it to a minimum, or are you like, hey, I don't care, I want as many as I possibly can get my hands on? Okay, so I ask all those questions because I think about these things for myself, and I would say this about myself. I'm an enthusiast, right? I don't really consider myself a collector because I feel like a collector is going to have some criteria, some direction where I'm trying to buy all the knives by a certain maker or in a certain material, or maybe there's certain steels that I want to have in my collection, okay? And well, some of those things come up for me from time to time. Mostly my criteria is this. I want, when I go to my knife rack in the morning and when I pick something to put in my pocket, I want to be excited about it. I want to take some joy from what I'm able to own and use and carry. And that's the primary criteria that I'm using when I decide what knives I'm going to buy. I just want to back the camera out a little bit, guys, so I can pull a few more things into the frame there and give you guys a better idea without, even before I've gone over everything. So to me, that means I'm more of an enthusiast, okay? I do this for fun. I don't have any real strict goals in mind. However, I will say this. I'm seriously thinking about changing my collection a little bit and narrowing it down to, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 20 knives that I absolutely adore. And I'm going to do that at the end of this video. So as I work through these knives, I'm going to put them in separate piles, and the piles will relate to, how near and dear these are to my heart, and which ones ultimately are going to end up in, sort of a core collection that I definitely will never get rid of. And then some others that, although I'm not rushing out to sell them immediately, I don't feel as strongly connected, and I may sell them to pick up some of the other pieces that I want in sort of that core collection. Okay, so that's where we're going at the end of this video. And that's the other thing I'd like to ask you guys. Do you have a core collection, a supplementary? And if you had to narrow it down to, say, 10 knives or even 15, what knives would they be if budget wasn't really a concern? Okay, and I'll tell you this for myself, if budget wasn't really a concern, I still wouldn't own like a Todd Rexford, right? There'd be a few custom makers that I would buy knives from that, right now are just not realistic for me. Peter Rosenti would be one. I'd probably buy a Todd Bag custom, maybe a few others, a Gareth Bull, I don't know. But here's the thing, guys. If you were going to say, I gotta get my collection down to, 10 knives or 20 knives, what would you use for your criteria, and what might those knives look like? Okay, so that's what I'd love to have you guys discuss down in the comments, and I'd love to see some input along those lines. So now let me get back to my own collection, and I'll just kind of work through things here. I think I'll break it down into themes just a little. So let's start with cold steels. I got a bunch of cold steels on the table. So let's start with the Recon One. Great knife, one of the best sort of hard use tactical style folders out there. Budget in, I mean, reasonable in price. In fact, you'd almost call this a budget knife. And you know, if what you're really looking for is a utility cutting tool that can do a lot, this is a great option. What other cold steels have I got here? So American Lawman, another great knife, highly recommended as an EDC. Carries like it's not even there. It's still tough, cuts like crazy. Now, I will say this. This is in a hollow grind, and I really, really like the hollow grind, and I'm rather sad that they've gone away from that. So if you're going to buy one of these, I would try to buy one on the secondary market and get a hollow grind. I really do prefer it, and I think it'd be worth finding one. If you can't, the flat grind is still okay, but I just love that hollow grind and how it ups the performance so much on that knife. What other cold steels have we got out here? Oh, 8010, which is my favorite cold steel to date. I actually like this better than the Recon One, which is hard to imagine, but it's just a little more comfortable in hand, and I like the overall design a little bit better. I love the Demco Custom, and so the production version makes sense that I would love it as well. And the action is a little nicer than my Recon One as well. Now that's going in a different spot. Formax, another cold steel that I absolutely love. I do have a bit of an affiliate. Wow. I do really like cold steel knives, and I'm probably a bit of a fanboy. I'll not even try it. I'll just give up on that other sentence that I was working on a minute ago. Okay. So I have lots of cold steels, and I really, really enjoy them, especially the Demco designs. I don't have many Benchmates, but you guys are probably familiar with this one. This is my Crooked River with aftermarket upgrades from Rogue Blade Works. I don't think that they have any of this stuff in stock anymore. If I think about it, I'll shoot them a message and ask if they're going to have any more. But I seem to recall that in a video where I put this knife on, someone asked about getting these, and they said, yeah, Rogue Blade Works doesn't have any more and may not be getting any more. One knife that stands out as special to me is the Rat Model 1. You can see this one's got a bit of rust and stuff on it. This one's been around for a long time. When I first started getting interested in knives, I did a bunch of research, watched a bunch of videos, and this was the knife that I settled on. And I used and carried this knife for years before really getting anything else. Eventually, I added a few more knives. When I first bought this, I was really tempted to buy a Code 4, or just a little while later. I guess the Code 4 wasn't out yet, but it came out a little while after. And I sort of had a little bit of regret, like, oh man, I bought the Rat 1, but I feel like now that the Code 4 is out, that would be more suited. And you know how it goes, guys. So I ended up buying that. But this is the first knife that I purchased after really putting in some time and energy and learning about what makes a good folding knife and kind of figuring out exactly what I wanted. And so when they put out the upgrade with the carbon fiber and D2, it was a no-brainer to buy that one. And both of these knives get quite a bit of use. The D2 one more so than the AUS 8 version these days. Let's run through a few Bestechs. I've got a few Bestechs around. This is the Bestech Muskie. Pretty nice knife. I like the action. I like the ergonomics. I like the blade shape. Lots of good stuff going on there. And Bestech tends to do a good job of their budget knives. Bestech Bison, another really good one. Again, a very, just a really nice user knife. I feel like I have more. Bestech Tricel. This guy came from Blade Show when I did the Bestech booth review. Selena from Bestech gave this to me, and so I like this one quite a lot. Probably won't be going anywhere in my collection, although I don't adore this knife more than any other Bestech or anything, but there's kind of some memories attached to it. Oh yeah, let's check this guy out. So the Custom Knife Factory Satori. Now, this is a cool knife. I love Peter Rosenti. I will never own one of his customs. By the way, this has that beautiful Adam Purvis clip on it that really, really makes this knife pop, and I think adds a whole new dimension to this. Anyway, Custom Knife Factory is doing a snafu, and it's going to be like $700, which is really disappointing. These, I think, were $525 or so. I could be lying to you there, but they were in the $500 range, like between $500 and $600, and so that's a huge price jump to $700, and I'm kind of disappointed to see that. What else have we got here? We've got some real steels. This is the uh, M121. I think it's called the Hussar or something along those lines. And it was originally available in stainless steel. And that was a pretty popular model for rake. So it makes sense that they offered it in titanium. And I've got to say, I enjoy this guy quite a bit. Swiss Army knife. This is the Swiss Champ. You can see it has tons of stuff. I'll just open the main blade for you. Um, so I keep this around for a couple of reasons. The main one is, so one, I do have some times where I like to carry this, usually in a backpack more so than in my pocket because it's a bit of a brick, but it's nice to have around for comparison to other slip joints. And since, Swiss Army knives are so iconic, everyone's kind of familiar with it. I've got another one here. Where's the Forester? And so here's my Forester. This was sent by a viewer. And this is a great knife for a couple of reasons. First, as you can see, I do use it and carry it. But first, I carry this a lot of times if I'm doing something where I'm afraid, there'll be sheeple complaining about what I'm carrying. No one complains about a Swiss Army knife. You can just about take them anywhere, even in places. I've gone to places where they have tight security and they just look at it and go, yeah, Swiss Army knife, no big deal. Where, I don't know what the response would have been if I had something else. So that's definitely something to think about. Those are the two Swiss Army knives I've got. I think I've gone through all the, yeah, let's keep going here. Steel Will Tasso Mini, really, really nice knife. Steel Will has killed it with this knife. It's too small for me and I still love it, which tells you guys a lot. I may have to try and get my hands on the larger version for review since I like this one so much. If someone out there watching has one and they'd be willing to lend it to me for, a couple weeks or something, that would be great. Case Sodbuster, just a classic big slip joint. I kind of keep this around mostly for comparison purposes because everyone is, again, so familiar with it. Most of you are familiar with this knife if you've been around the channel. This is the knife that I bought at Blade this year. This is the Chavez Ultramar 229, and I enjoy this knife a lot. This is a beautiful knife and definitely one that is sticking around in the permanent collection. Let's move on to Spydercos. I was trying to kind of go by company for a while, but I gave up on that. But let's go back to that. So this is the Spyderco Amalgam. This is my favorite Spyderco of all time. I've had a lot of time to use this, to carry it. I love everything about this knife. To me, this is the best thing Spyderco has ever done. It's not perfect. There are a couple little hiccups here, but I totally, totally enjoy this knife. Close to that would be the Para 2. Of course, iconic, classic for good reason. This is just an excellent, excellent folding knife. Plus, for the channel, it's worth having one of these around because everyone is so familiar with it that I can bring it in as a comparison. It gives everyone watching a good sense for the size or weight or blade length or whatever I'm talking about on a knife that I'm using it for comparison with. Next up, Tuya Knives, Kingsman. This is the flagship for Tuya. They are sold out right now, but Dave assures me they're getting more in shortly. I like this knife quite a bit. This knife does some things really, really well, and it actually, at 250 bucks, it really feels like it's hitting above its weight because the feel on this is exceptional. It's just so smooth and so clean. I have to give them a lot of credit for that. The blade is very thick, and that's going to put some people off. But for me, for an EDC blade, it's not a big deal. Recent acquisition is the Chris Reeve knives Inkosi with the black micarta. I have wanted one of these for a while. I sold my original Inkosi very specifically with the idea in mind of picking one up just like this. It took me a while. We had to get here via the Doppler, but I really, really like this knife. I mean, really like it. So this is going to be one that sticks around, and it's nice to have a Chris Reeve, again, for the similar reasons to the Para 2. Next up, we've got a Hinderer XM18. This is the Skinner grind, I guess. Nicely anodized and beautiful sort of battle green. Bronze hardware. I really, really like this knife. This was a friend's knife, and he decided he wanted to part with it. And it took us a bit of negotiating because this is an older model and therefore has lost some value. So it was hard. I felt bad not being able to just pay exactly what he wanted, but the problem was I just, Hinderers tend to come and go in my collection. I've often got one around. This one is one of the best examples I've ever seen. The action is phenomenal. It's a Gen 4 and it just works so well, better than any of the Gen 4s I've previously handled. So definitely a win on this guy. and a knife that I enjoy an awful lot. This is the Bird Raven 2, nice budget knife, one I keep around sort of as a recommendation knife because I really, really like it. They upgraded the steel a couple years ago, and it's quite nice. We have here the Viper Maga. This is a knife that, well, not my favorite knife out there, kind of looks interesting, and this knife was a gift to me, so it will never leave the collection because of the fact that my wife and kids gave it to me. So, well, it's not necessarily my favorite knife in the world, or one that I would recommend to everyone, although there's, some people will probably enjoy it. This is a knife that will never ever leave my collection because of the source. What else have we got here? Here is another rake knife. This is the M875. Love this knife as well. Super impressed by what Rake has done here. And, I kind of anticipated this happening eventually, but this is sort of their flagship in their titanium knives. So they're starting to do a few higher end pieces, and that's one of the main ones. QSP, I can't remember. This must be the Puffin. A really, really nice design. I like this design a lot. One little hiccup is that I cannot open this one-handed. I sort of have to do a pinch opening with 2 fingers. Doesn't really bother me that much. I've actually still used and carried this quite a bit. And despite the fact that I don't like the action on it, or the deployment, I guess, I will likely be giving this a pretty positive review because I really just find myself carrying this and using it much more than I anticipated. I like this design an awful lot. Do I wish this cutout was more accessible? Absolutely. But I still really get a lot of joy out of this knife, even though it can be a bit of a pain in the neck. Here is the WE037, or the 910. I think the 37, one of those is the name anyway, one is the model number. This is a cool knife. Now, 20 Meteor pointed out that this is not the most attractive knife that WE has ever built. And I kind of agree with him. I'm not going to argue that. I mean, I don't find it ugly at all. Maybe some of you watching can weigh in on that. Do you think this is an ugly knife? I like the knife. What really stands out to me about this is how perfectly it does everything. It is amazing in hand in both the backed off grip, saber grip. If you choke up, it's still great. It cuts like a dream. It's super lightweight. Like everything that I want a knife to do, this does it exceptionally well. So if you're a person who values function over form, this is probably the only WE knife that you should look at. All right. There are some others that are maybe a little prettier, a little more attractive, but I've handled very few knives in general that are as good as this, and I've certainly never handled a WE that was as good, as comfortable in hand, as nice of a cutter, as lightweight. This is a great knife. Don't want to get into a whole review there. Here is the best version of the Real Steel Metamorph. This one is in G10, and it's an exclusive to Indiana Knives, which is pretty cool. When I saw this, I was super, super interested because I love this design. I just was put off by the fact that the first one I had was so slippery, I couldn't even use it. And so the fact that this is nice and grippy really fixes that little issue for me. What else we got here? Kershaw Knockout. Pretty familiar. The Damascus on this one kind of sucks. I need to address that with Kershaw and get them to, I don't know, do something. Curtis F3, the only custom knife I own, and a knife that is just fantastic. This was a Grail knife for me for so long, and I still love it as much as I did the day I got it. This will never ever leave my collection. Absolutely love this knife. Last but not least is a knife that is well known to those of you who watch the channel regularly. This is the Riot Torrent. Probably one of my favorite production knives all around because it does everything. It has all the features and feel and quality that I want from a super high-end knife, and yet it doesn't cost as much as many super high-end knives, and it's extremely confidence inspiring. And because of the price point, I think these can probably be found for $275 or so these days. I just don't feel the need to baby it or anything. So again, totally love this knife. Okay, so that's the whole collection. I didn't put fixed blades in, and I didn't put knives that are just visiting for review. Now, though, I want to take 2 minutes and just line up a few knives that are going to kind of get a special place in the collection. So these are knives that I want to sort of use to form, I don't know, like a core for my collection. These are knives that are never going to go anywhere. Knives that I feel like are exceptional examples of what they're trying to do. Knives that mean something to me, perhaps even a lot to me in some cases. See, I'm running out of room here. There we go. Okay, so this small grouping of knives here, these are knives that I feel like are sort of my core collection, and these will never be going anywhere. And there are a couple of knives that I'd still like to add to this, and then I may really consider just selling off everything else, because these are just so good that I feel like I can get all the joy that I need to get out of the knife hobby just with these knives and nothing else. Now, the things that I'd like to add and will be working to add in the near future is, number one, a Shiro. I got to hurry because the rain's going to come. So a Shirogorov F3 definitely needs to be back in the collection. A Koenig Arius. Possibly, and there's two knives that I want to touch on from the high-end side that are possibilities here. One is the Gareth Bull Chamois in 3.5. If they do another run of those, I may try to get in on it. And the other one is a Holt Spectre. Now, the thing that puts me off of those knives is the price point. Both of them basically start at $700, which to me is too much for a knife that, I mean, the thing about all of these knives is I feel comfortable owning them, using them, carrying them. And I feel like at that point, I would no longer feel that way anymore. So that's what I'm looking to do in the future. Add those two for sure, an Arius and a Shiro, to this pile of knives, and then that kind of be my core collection. And everything else outside of these may sort of come and go and have some variability. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear your comments down below. I'd love to hear you comment on any of the things I've asked you, especially pertaining to collection and how you guide your collection, or and how you identify yourself within the hobby. And what would be the knives that you would put in this pile for yourself? All right, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh, Joel came by and just wanted to say hi. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear that or not. Say it one more time, Joel. You have to say it right here.
Hi, guys.
There you go. So Joel came by, wanted to say hi. Thanks again for watching. I'd love to hear your comments. Use my link to DLT, and the reason I'm linking DLT in this video is because the knives here in this stack, these are the kind of knives you're more likely to find over there. And using that link does help the channel. So if you're going to buy something anyway, especially a Hinderer or something from Chris Reeve, that does, DLT is going to have you really, really hooked up in those areas.
Check out my video.
Okay, thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you soon.